Professionals who practice in the area of accounting, assurance, or tax are often on the outside of discussions about strategy. For many of us, we want to make a strategic contribution, but we aren't quite sure how. Some of you may hold the view it's not our role to develop strategy. Others of you may disagree. If you are already making a valuable contribution to your client, be it internal or external, I commend you. If you have yet to achieve that, then please listen a little bit longer. Back when I was working in public practice, I can recall being a senior manager at the time and sitting down with a bunch of the partners and other senior managers trying to brainstorm new and value-added services that we could offer our owner-manager clients. Strategic planning was one such service that got suggested, and I got tasked with sketching out the opportunity. Coming up with the high-level vision of the service offering was really easy. This is going to be so great. Our clients are going to love us. The work itself is going to be interesting for our senior people. We pretty much had access to all the people in the information, and we already had a trusted advisor relationship with our client. It just made so much sense for us to extend our client relationship to now include an element of strategic planning. So surely strategic planning was a natural fit. However, this idea never got off the ground because many of us, staff, managers, and partners alike, had no background in strategic management. When it comes to offering our clients advice about accounting and tax matters, that's definitely within our wheelhouse. We are the smartest people in the room on those sorts of matters. But strategy? What could we possibly add to the conversation that an owner-manager doesn't already know or has hired others to figure out? This course has been developed with that unfinished mission in mind. Whether you choose to develop strategic planning as a service line or not, it's entirely up to you. The goal of this course is to give you enough insight and understanding of strategic management to engage in the conversation with your internal or external client with confidence. This course breaks down strategic management into 4 phases: assessing future state, assessing current state, strategy development, and performance management. In each lesson, you'll learn how to gather information, analyze the data, and provide value-added advice to your client in plain, simple language that any client can understand. Strategic management is often thought to be something reserved only for large organizations, and nothing can be further from the truth. In fact, if your client is still in business today, they've got a strategy. But the questions for you to consider are, is it the right strategy? Is it well executed? Will it be successful for years to come? Included in this course is a turnkey strategic management toolkit for use with your clients. It literally breaks down strategic management into 20 key questions pertaining to each of the 4 phases of strategic management. I'll also provide you with a 1-page working paper for you to maintain in your client's permanent file. Surely this is a turnkey incremental service opportunity that you should consider incorporating into your existing client relationship. My name is Blair Cook, and if this sounds promising to you, I encourage you to click on the first lesson to begin. Let's begin by first off recognizing that strategy is a very broad concept. You may hear a client say to you that implementing a customer relationship management is a strategic initiative. Another may say that employee retention is a key strategic issue. Yet someone else suggests the exiting of a certain segment of business as a strategic move. Since when has everything in the business world become so strategic? Is everything strategic? And if so, which of these issues is the most strategic? You need to become very comfortable with the idea that strategy has many layers to it. All of these issues may be labeled as strategic. However, there is a clear hierarchy to consider. The issue of whether to keep or exit a business supersedes the implementation of our CRM system or a new policy about employee retention. Another difference you'll notice when it comes to talking about strategy is that your larger clients, typically those with a formal organizational structure, will talk about strategy far more frequently than your smaller entrepreneurial clients. Some entrepreneurs may not even admit to having a strategy, but they do. Whether it's a sole proprietor plumber or a multinational company, both types of organizations have a strategy. It's the degree to which strategy is formalized and documented that most likely differs. And just because the multinational company has more resources, people, capital, assets, doesn't necessarily mean that they are any more enlightened about strategy than the plumber. In fact, research has shown that a piddly 5% of employees in Fortune 500 companies understand the strategy of their company. 5%. Wow. It's got to be that much harder to achieve a goal when the people responsible for doing the work don't even know what the plan is. And this isn't an issue of just Fortune 500 companies. It doesn't take long before a handful of employees begin wondering what's going on. So if our plumber goes out and hires a few teams of plumbers and apprentices, and then a couple of sales guys, then maybe a bookkeeper, perhaps a purchasing agent, the organization still has less than a half dozen people in it, but are all the oars aligned? Big idea number one, all organizations have a strategy. Sometimes just writing it down and sharing with the employee teams can add value in the clarity and the alignment it can bring. So if all our clients have a strategy, how is that strategy developed? There are generally three approaches. Insight comes from profound understanding. Understanding our marketplace, our capabilities, our customer needs. Everyone can identify with the profound insight that Steve Jobs at Apple had when he created the iPod, the iPad, the iPhone, iTunes, etc. These were such resounding successes that pioneered new markets and changed the way customers consume media. That, my friends, is insight personified. But let's think about our local plumber client again. A degree of insight is every bit as necessary in his business as it is in Apple's. He too needs to consider the demand generators for his business so that he too can capitalize on opportunities. If the housing market is strong, plumbers could do very well staffing up and building an organization to capitalize on this trend. He could also increase prices. He could also specialize on new homes exclusively. There are dozens of strategies that our client could pursue. Using insight, the plumber intuitively knows how to maximize the value of his business and allocates his resources accordingly. The second approach for developing strategy is to use a formal planning approach. Planning is particularly relevant as the organization evolves and grows. A planning approach considers where we are, where we want to go, and how we're going to get there. Planning allows for the alignment of resources. The downside of a planning approach is that it's time-consuming to do, and many organizations do this but once a year, if at all. Here's where you can add value to your client relationship by acting as a catalyst strategist to help them facilitate a discussion. Our third approach is a response approach, and this approach deals with strategy as the situation changes. You can't avoid a response approach, but nor should you rely on it exclusively. The biggest problem with a response approach is it's exhausting. We all have certain clients who are firefighting issues on a daily basis. Remember the 95% of oblivious employees that we talked about earlier? When there's no context for decision making, mistakes happen, inefficiencies creep in, and balls get dropped. So we want to shoot for insight, implement a little planning where it helps build the alignment, and develop a performance management system that brings intelligence to our response approach. Let's introduce this notion of strategic management further. Think of strategic management as a process inside an organization, which can be as formal or as informal as you like. I think of strategic planning as one iteration of this process. So essentially, the two concepts are very similar, and many people will use these interchangeably. Strategic management, as I'm going to define it for you in this course, has four elements. Other strategic management courses you'll find will in all likely portray strategic management differently and with a lot more layers. If you're doing an MBA, you'll spend more than an hour on strategic management, believe me. But I don't think you need to worry about every variation of strategic management theory to effectively participate in a conversation about strategy. Let's get an overview. The future state and the current state bookend our current location and our desired destination. The strategic plans are the map that get us from here to there. And performance management are all about the systems and processes we put in place to keep us on track and adjust as necessary. In the lessons to come, I'm going to tell you about each one of these 4 phases in greater detail. In this lesson, we talked about 3 important points. First, recognize that every organization, company, proprietor, and client already has a strategy. It may not be formalized or documented, but they've got one. Even the act of simply writing down the existing strategy as the first step offers tremendous value to help align resources. It's an easy win, so don't overthink it, just do it. There are 3 approaches to developing strategy. No one approach alone does the job completely. So we can query our client and raise the awareness about the importance of thinking about all 3 approaches in the context of developing and executing strategy. And finally, strategic management is an ongoing organizational process. It can be as little or big as you like, formal or as informal as you like, but the more resources employed inside the business, the more attention that needs to be paid to managing strategy. I'll finish with the words of General Dwight Eisenhower. Plans are worthless, but planning is everything. Raising strategy to a conscious level can greatly improve the effectiveness of the organization. Until the next lesson, I'm Blair Cook.